Good day, class. Welcome back. I've enjoyed watching your film projects. I am so excited to reveal those to you. I have posted them under news, so please share in my excitement and watch those this week. You will be using them for your Essay 2. Now, your Essay 2 is called Essay 2 Film Analysis, and it will be an analysis of one of your classmates' film projects. You cannot analyze your own film project. You need to choose a different film project to analyze. Now, your Essay 2 will begin with an introduction, and that introduction will start with a general statement, followed by supporting details that narrow down to a thesis statement. The thesis statement then needs to mention the name of the film and the 3 categories of specialized vocabulary terms you're going to focus on. We are going to use the same terms that you used for the blob analysis. So camera angle, distance of shot, mise-en-scene, diegetic sound, and non-diegetic sound. So you'll need to choose 3 of those. And so those 3 will need to be in your thesis statement as well. Following your introduction, you will have a paragraph that's a little different than paragraphs you've written in the past. This is a plot summary. So you're going to use the writing technique of narrative to tell us the story of the film that you selected to analyze. So tell us that story using the writing technique of narrative, and that'll be 100 to 150 words. It will likely be the shortest paragraph in your essay. The next 3 paragraphs are standard body paragraphs like you've written before. Now these will be exactly like your blob analysis paragraphs, where you'll have a topic sentence that will need to mention the category or the topic, like distance of shot, and then you will choose 3 different types of distance of shot, for example, to discuss. You will need to make sure that you define, provide an example from the film that you selected to analyze. Then you will need to have a description plus another technique, and those can be combined. And then you need to talk about the impact or effect, because this is an analysis. You will do that 3 times in each body paragraph, so for 3 different specialized vocabulary terms. And then you will do that for all 3 paragraphs. Now, after your 3 body paragraphs that are just like the blob analysis, you'll have a conclusion, and the conclusion needs to summarize what you discussed in the essay and synthesize the information. That means bring everything together. So how do all of those different types of film techniques interact to make the film what it is? Now, this essay will also need to include a few things that you haven't done before. So I've mentioned the plot summary, which is where you use narrative to tell us the story of the film, but you will also be including quotes. Now you need to include 2 quotes, okay? And they need to be framed. Now you've practiced this some when writing your script. You need to tell us who said it, how they said it, their expression or emotion, and their action. What were they doing when they said it? All integrated into a sentence with what they said. Now, that is exactly how you did it for the script, but this time you're looking at someone else's film and you're telling us what they said, and you're integrating that into one of the body paragraphs. So for instance, let's say that you have an example of distance of shot, okay? And you're talking about a close-up. Tell us what they said during that close-up and frame that quote. Now, when you frame a quote and you're using the film as a source, or if you were writing a paper that was based on books or articles as a source, you would need to make sure that you cited it in text. Now, an in-text citation is where you acknowledge the source of the information. So for this particular essay, you'll have your framed quote, and then after the quotation marks, but before the period, you'll put parentheses, and you'll write the name of the film in the parentheses with quotation marks around the name of the film. Now, these are short films, so there is quotation marks around the name of the film. If it was a long film, like a feature-length film, like The Blob, for instance, you would put the name of that film in italics. But for this particular essay, you'll be putting the name of the film in quotation marks inside the parentheses at the end of the quote, and that goes after the quotation marks, but before the period. And I've posted an example of that under news. Now, since we have an in-text citation, you will also need to have a full reference on the works cited page. So for Essay 2, you will also be including a works cited page. And I've given you an example of that under news, so make sure and look at the attachment, and that will be the last page of this essay. And it will say works cited at the top with the full reference. Now you will need to create a reference for the film that you selected. The sample I've given you is just a sample reference, so you will need to create one that is for this film in particular. So it'll have the name of the film, the date, and the link, and some additional information. And again, I've posted some information about that under news, so make sure that you look at that. Now, this week, we will also be starting something new. Now, in addition to writing your essay, you will be working on summarizing, quoting, and paraphrasing. Now, I've mentioned a little bit about summary when I talked to you about your essay 2 instructions. But a summary is where you take something that is longer and you write about it using fewer words. So you highlight the most important points. So let's say you're summarizing a whole article. Then your summary would probably only be 8 to 10 sentences. Now, a summary means that you have to decide as the writer what is the most important or most relevant to the discussion. So a lot of it comes down to you as the writer deciding on what information you want to share. It's very important in a summary that you use your own words. You are not quoting. You are paraphrasing. Now, I mentioned paraphrasing separately a minute ago, and that's because paraphrasing is actually used in summary. That means putting something in your own words, but a summary highlights the most important points. Now, paraphrase all by itself means that it's typically the same length as the original text. A summary is significantly shorter, as I've said. A paraphrase is typically the same length. So you wouldn't paraphrase a whole article. You might paraphrase a sentence or two. So that means someone would write a sentence or two, and then you would write it in your own words, giving us the same information that's presented in that 1 or 2 sentences, and your paraphrase would likely be 1 or 2 sentences. So again, to recap, a summary is significantly shorter than the original, and you highlight the most important or most relevant parts using your own words. A paraphrase is about the same length as the original text, and it's usually used on shorter sections, like a couple of sentences, where then you tell us in your own words what those 1 to 2 sentences mean. That's a paraphrase. And quoting, well, we've learned a lot about quoting. You need to tell us who said it and how it was said, along with what was said. And if you're watching a video, then it needs to be the movement and expression. If it's just in text, so if you're reading something, then you don't need to have the movement and expression because we can't see that. Now, with each of those, a summary, a paraphrase, and a framed quote, you would need to cite the source in text. That means at the end of the summary, not at the end of each sentence, at the end of the summary section, the last sentence before the period of the last sentence, in parentheses, you would write the name of the author, and that's just the last name of the author. If no author is available, then it would be the name of the article. And since we're looking at articles, you would put the article in quotation marks. If it was a book, you would put it in italics. But we're just using articles, so just in quotation marks inside the parentheses before the period of the last sentence of the summary. With a paraphrase, it again, the last sentence, so if your paraphrase is only 1 sentence, at the end of that sentence, before the period, in parentheses, you'll put the last name of the author or the name of the article. And the quote, as I mentioned a little bit ago, it goes after the quotation marks, but before the period, you have the parentheses and the last name of the author or the name of the article in quotation marks. This week, your homework, in addition to starting your essay 2, which will be due in 2 weeks, so it'll be due 2 weeks from today, your homework for this week that will be due this Thursday is to find an article. It can be any article you want. You can choose a news article. I want you to choose a news article that is in English. It does need to be written in English so I can review it as well. And I want you to find one section, so one paragraph of that article, and copy and paste it to a Word document. Copy and paste it to a Word document. Now, underneath that copy and pasted section, write the word summary, and then underneath the word summary, I want you to write a summary of that section of the article. So the section I want you to copy and paste needs to be 5 to 10 sentences. Then you'll write the word summary, and then you'll write a summary of that 5 to 10 sentences. So if it's 5 sentences that you choose to copy and paste, your summary will probably just be 2 to 3 sentences. If you choose a 10-sentence section to copy and paste, then your summary might be, 4 or 5 sentences. It'll be a little bit longer, but it must be significantly shorter than the original text. Next, you will take 1 to 2 sentences from that same section and copy and paste it and write the word paraphrase. And then underneath the word paraphrase, I want you to then write 1 to 2 sentences, depending on how much you chose to copy and paste there, of a paraphrase that tells us what those 1 to 2 sentences say, but in your own words. Now remember, a paraphrase is in your own words. After that, I want you to take that same section and I want you to quote something from it. So who said it? How it was said? Was it stated, asserted, mentioned, suggested, recommended, posited, argued? Tell us how it was said. Quote it. And then in parentheses, cite your source. So behind your summary, your paraphrase, and your quote, you need to make sure you cite your sources, just as I discussed a few minutes ago. And to recap, you will take a larger section, okay? You're looking at 5 to 10 sentences. You're going to copy and paste it. Then you're going to write a summary of that in your own words. That's significantly shorter than the original text. That highlights the most important points. Next, you will take 1 to 2 sentences of that and copy and paste it. And then in your own words, tell me what those 1 to 2 sentences say, and make sure you cite your source in text. And then after that, you will then quote from that section of 1 to 2 sentences. Make sure you frame your quote, who said it and how it was said, and then cite your source. And that will be due this Thursday in the Dropbox. And the Dropbox will be entitled Quoting, Summarizing, and Paraphrasing. So make sure that you submit it to that Dropbox. Now again, your Essay 2 is due in 2 weeks. This assignment, Quoting, Paraphrasing, and Summarizing, is due to the Dropbox this Thursday. Please do let me know if you have any questions about anything. I am here to help. You can find me on WhatsApp. If you're still in the US, you can text me, and you can always email me. I wish you all the best. Have a lovely week, and I look forward to hearing from you. Goodbye.